Hey guys, it's Jeff from Texas Motor Works. So we're doing this clutch on this VT500 Ascot, and it's a little bit different than most clutches I've done. So I wanted to shoot this video, maybe help you guys out a little bit out there. So this part actually holds on and keeps compression on all the springs. But what was kind of weird about this clutch is that to get the plates out, you have to pull out the center lock nut. It's a 24 millimeter. It does have a lock washer on the other side, but it does not look like a lock washer, but that's what it is. Very important because that lock washer has a marking on the outside of it that says outside, and it needs to be facing outside when you put it back in. But when you take off that big nut, the whole basket, this will all come out. Pay attention to how the plates are. It starts with the friction and it ends with the, like, Jesus, I just did it a minute ago. And I don't remember. It starts with the friction, ends with the friction, but there's two little rings in here, and they call them damper rings. So they're just two little black rings that go in there. Friction, steel, friction, steel, friction, steel, friction, all the way to the end. And the trick with getting this on, it was a little bit fiddly, but what you want to do is have all this, have the springs off it. Set the clutch pack up on this piece that comes out, and this piece will have the grooves inside. You can set all the plates and the steels. Of course, the frictions will kind of move around on this, but the steels will be set because they're toothed, and this is toothed. And then hold the whole thing together, and then as you slide the clutch on, you just got to kind of align the frictions as you go. Also make sure that if you pull out the basket, because once you pull this big nut, the basket's going to be free. So the problem I ran into is I pulled it out, and I actually, when I was fitting up the basket, I actually moved the rear wheel a little bit, and what happened was there's, on the output shaft inside there's little notches that fit onto the back of the clutch basket. So when I went to put everything back together, I got it on, but the way I knew is because the lock nut here it didn't look like it was all the way down, like it had more travel. And then I looked over here at the gear, and I realized that it was sitting out a little bit. This should be totally flush together. They should be the same level as each other. So just kind of make sure you kind of have to work with it. Make sure you get the basket all the way back on, and then load up your pack, and then springs. The torque spec on the big lock nut was 47 to 52 foot-pounds, and there's no torque spec on the spring bolts. You just snug them down evenly. And other than that, getting to this on the Ascot was a little bit of a pain because you have to pull off the subframe. So you can see that the motor is on a jack, and obviously the exhaust had to come off, and since I took the exhaust off, I'm going to send it over to powder coat. And the exhaust is really interesting on these bikes. So you've got the V-twin pipes, and then it comes down, and then it goes into like a collector box or an equalizer box that spans all the way over. I forget what they call it, but it's all the way over underneath the swing arm, and then it comes back, and then you've got your stinger right out back here. So it's pretty interesting. But yeah, you had to take the exhaust off, take the subframe off, make sure you support the motor, and then if you don't take the subframe off, there's no way to get to the bottom bolts. So other than that, pretty straightforward. Since I've got it open, I took a look at the cam chains, see if I felt any slack in them. These are inherently noisy motors. I've read a lot that they make cam chain noise. It's nothing really to worry about. It's just part of what they are. It's a great motor. The VT500 motor was in the Shadows and the Ascots, and can't remember what else it was in, but it's a great motor. I ordered a jet kit for it because it's a little bit anemic in the mid-range. It's kind of got a flat spot, and that's inherent in these also. So I'm going to get the clutch back together, put the jet kit in it, and then I'll have the pipes back from powder coat next week and put her all back together. Gorgeous bike. We're just getting it as perfect as possible, and then it'll be for sale. All right, people, stay healthy.